What's up, everybody? Welcome to another issue of the Popcorn Bucket. This is episode number 3. We're going to be doing a pretty controversial movie that came out recently, and I think I'd be remiss if I didn't do it. I was contemplating doing this movie or not doing this movie because it's controversial, and we're starting the channel out, and we want to get as many followers as possible. And I didn't know if doing this movie would help or hurt the cause. But I'm going to stay true to myself. I'm going to do this movie. I went and saw it last night, so I'm going to do it. Let me share my screen with you so you know what I'm talking about. Actually, before I do that, let me put up some stuff here. Do me a favor. Do me a favor and hit subscribe. Hit the bell, get notifications when we go live. I decided to do this kind of off the cuff on a whim, and I didn't really get it out there to a lot of people to let them know that this was going to be live. I just sent out a Instagram and a tweet, or an X, or whatever they call what's a tweet on X now? I wonder what you call that. I'm sure they have a name, but I put it out there real quick just because I want to get this. I want to do this and get it over with. But it's not going to be a long one. Not going to go through it step by step. But do me a favor, hit that bell, hit subscribe. We need the numbers. We want to make this channel as big as possible. Some upcoming things. Oh boy, really? Already this is happening? Let's see. There we go. Okay, let's give that a shot. So, hope it's going. Let's see. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so, couple things that are coming up that are pretty interesting. We're going to do a podcast or a popcorn bucket episode on. Oh, I got a comment already. Hey, Mikey Hers is here. What's up, Mikey? How you doing? Oh, Guida. Yes, I am. What? Oh, Joe Tammy, a real professional. Yes, thank you. I'm still getting the hang of it. Still getting the hang of the setup here. I got a camera, a camcorder from 2009. My father-in-law bought this camcorder for me as a wedding gift, and finally getting to use it. But it's still getting used to it. It's an old camcorder, so it wants to go off every now and then. But we're trying it. So this week, now that Joe and Mike are here, 2 mics. I got 2 mics and a Joe. This Wednesday, tomorrow night, we're going to go live, and we're going to review. We're going to review the Grand Tour, the finale of the Grand Tour, which is a show on Amazon with Jeremy Clarkson and Richard Hammond and James May. They host a show called the Grand Tour, but they also hosted a show for many, many years called Top Gear, which was on the BBC. They left the BBC to go to Amazon for reasons that we'll talk about tomorrow. But we're going to go live because this was one of our favorite shows for many, many years now. And it's their last show. I want to say they've done close to 30 seasons, including both shows on the BBC and Amazon. I'm sure one of these guys will tell me how many years it is. But we absolutely love the show. We had a podcast back in the day. I'm actually repping it on this shirt here. But we had a podcast back in the day, and we did multiple episodes of the podcast talking about Top Gear and stuff like that. So we're going to go live tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and we're going to talk about our favorite aspects of that show. I don't want to give too much away, but if you like Top Gear and you like the Grand Tour, tune in tomorrow night at 9:00 Eastern time. Tonight, like I said, make sure you hit that bell and subscribe. You can find us on all different types of channels. If you don't want to watch us on YouTube, you can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and Amazon Music. So tonight we are going to review a movie called Am I Racist? Oh, now I get why Mike wrote that comment. Okay, thanks, Mike. I got it now. Thanks, Guido. Appreciate that. Let me bring up the image I have here. Okay, this is the movie. If you don't know what movie I'm talking about, this is the movie. And I would assume that a lot of people don't know this movie's even a thing, or that it's out, or who it is and what it's about. So just to give you a quick like background on what this is, the guy on the movie poster there, his name is Matt Walsh. He is a commentator. Well, we got can't type for a little while. Can't type for a little bit, but I'm here listening. Okay, Mikey Hers, I got you. No problem. So Matt Walsh on the poster there, he is uh, a a conservative news um, personality that is on the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire is a conservative news outlet that has a bunch of different hosts that make a lot of different shows. They have their own streaming service called the Daily Wire. Or I don't know if it's called the Daily Wire Plus, but I think it's just the Daily Wire. Um, Ben Shapiro's on there. Michael Knowles is on there. Matt Walsh. Um, the Peterson guy, the philosopher dude, who's really awesome. I forget his name. Mike Guido will tell me his name. I love your comments, Mikey. You're very good. Um, so Matt Walsh, this is his second movie that he made. Now, there are lots of things that I agree with Matt Walsh on, and there are a lot of things that I don't necessarily see eye to eye with Matt Walsh on. Um, and I try to stay as open minded as I possibly can with news and with politics. I obviously have my beliefs, and I obviously lean a certain way, but I don't take everything that every right wing or conservative commentator says for truth, or for the absolute. That's the thing I'm going to believe just because a right wing conservative said it, right? Jordan Peterson, thank you, Mike. Jordan Peterson. Um, there are things I listen to Matt Walsh's show, his podcast, and like I said, there are some things where he starts talking about certain things and I just turn it off. There are certain things that I want to hear his commentary on. A lot of times I'll listen to him to kind of understand how to argue with, not argue, but how to have a conversation with other people about um, a topic that I don't necessarily have the ability to speak about on my own, right? I'm not a wordsmith, as you can obviously tell just by listening to me do this podcast. Um, but just to kind of get my thoughts straight on things. But he had a movie, I want to say a year or two ago, that was extremely, extremely controversial. And that movie was called What is a Woman? I always get the Am I a Racist? Am I a Woman? What is a Racist mixed up or backwards. But he had another movie called What is a Woman? And in my opinion, that movie, that was a straight up documentary. Like, that wasn't, you couldn't get that, you couldn't go see that, or see that movie at all unless you had a subscription to the Daily Wire streaming service. This movie, Am I Racist, was released in the theaters, and it was in the top 5, I think, of the box office. Now, that is a statistic that is thrown out there. I don't buy into statistics a lot, because what 5 movies was it up against? How long have those other movies been out? Um, was there anything else worth seeing after number 4 besides Am I Racist? I didn't go digging into that. So I take that with a grain of salt. I'm not sure if that means anything, or if it really made a lot of money. I'll tell you this, my theater maybe had 20, 30 people in it, but for a Monday night, an 8 o'clock Monday night show of Am I Racist that you pretty much don't see commercials for, I think 30 people was okay. Um, so the first movie, What is a Woman, like I said, was only on the Daily Wire streaming service. You could only see it if you had a subscription. I happen to have a subscription. I had a subscription. I don't anymore. They raised the price by like $200, and I put a quick end to that. But that was pure documentary. Like, that was just straight up documentary. Kind of hard hitting kind of journalism type of movie where he went around to different um, professors and activists in the trans community and the LGBTQ community, and he wanted his argue. He feels very strongly against the trans movement, and one of the ways that he tried to kind of debunk the trans movement with these professors and activists was to ask them to answer a simple question: "What is a woman?" Um, Obviously, a lot of the people in that community had a hard time giving them a definition of what a woman is, for various reasons, right? And you can make whatever you want out of that. Um, like I said, I'm going to try to not be political about this. Oh, question. Let's put this on the screen here. Was I am a woman? Was am I a woman? Not in the theaters by choice, or do you think the theaters wanted nothing to do with the subject? I think it was a choice. I think it was something that was used specifically to get subscribers for the Daily Wire. I don't think the Daily Wire was getting the subs that they kind of expected to get, um, just from being out there. So I think they had to have something to draw people in, and I think they used "What is a Woman" to do that. And to be honest, that's the only reason I signed up. I listened to the host of that channel of the Daily Wire on Apple Podcasts for free. I didn't need to um, subscribe to that service, but I wanted to see that documentary, so I subscribed. And then once they raised, and then I hung around because they actually had other good shows. They had a movie with Gina Carano in it that was very good. Um, they had another horror movie, like a home invasion type movie, which was pretty good. I don't remember the names of these things because I don't have the streaming service anymore. They started getting a kids channel going with like kids shows and cartoons and stuff, but I didn't get a chance to see that. Then Jordan Peterson had a series of good shows on the Daily Wire where he gave lectures and he spoke with people. So it did get me in. I would have stayed if they kept the price the same, but they wanted like $250 a year. I signed up. I want to say I signed up for $80 for the year, and then I got renewed at $250. They just automatically charged my card for $250, and I flipped. And I canceled like immediately after that. But yeah, I think pretty much that was used only to get subs. Um, yeah, so this movie is not a straight up documentary at all. Okay, so it's and I think there's reason for it, and I think they did a good job with it. I liked it. It was fine. It was entertaining. Like, What is a Woman was not entertaining. It wasn't meant to entertain you. It was meant to um show you the quote unquote absurdity of the trans community and some of their beliefs through the eyes of Matt Walsh. And he he goes about that movie in a similar way that he goes about this movie, but that movie was he was Matt Walsh in What is a Woman. He introduced himself as Matt Walsh. He went into every interview with a professor or an activist, telling them exactly who he was, telling him exactly what the documentary was about. And he went in there and they were immediately um, on the defensive, right? So the activists and the professors were immediately put on the defensive because he told them what he was doing. He was making a documentary. They all know who he is. He's famous, right? It's not like this movie. This movie he tries to kind of disguise himself, but in What is a Woman, he tried to, just do journalism. So I think it's a very different feel of a movie. In this movie, he like I said, I liked it. I didn't like it as much as there are going to be people who love there are going to be really right-wing hardcore conservative people who absolutely love this. The the left leaning liberal is going to absolutely hate this. I think this movie is actually pretty important for the middle of the road independent person. Um, because the right wing guy or the right wing girl is gonna everything in this movie they have heard 100 times before from a conservative commentator. So there's nothing in this movie that is new or groundbreaking if you are a conservative person who listens to conservative radio and news. So that's how it differs from the first one. I don't think it has much of an impact as the first movie did. What is a Woman? What is a Woman really had a very very strong impact on the world because I don't think a lot of people knew about even the right wingers. I don't think a lot of people knew what that world was about and how the people in that world thought of things. With this movie, it's not as groundbreaking, not as I don't think earth-shattering as What Is a Woman because the whole I don't think a lot of people buy into this as much as they bought into the other thing. What do I mean by that? I mean I think the majority of Americans in this country, the majority of people in this country are pretty down the middle on race, right? There of course there are going to be people who are absurdly racist. You're never going to get rid of those people. However, there are a lot less of those types of people around today than there were 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 years ago. You can't deny that. We are a better culture than we used to be. There is no denying that. And I think your average person understands that no matter what race they are, no matter what, color their skin is. I think your average individual understands that race relations nowadays are much better than they have ever been in our country's history. I would hope. I would hope that the average person understands that. Um, I live in the South. There are, the majority of people that live down here are either white or black, right? There are very little Asian people. There are very little Indian people, and people of other cultures besides white and black people. That's the majority of down here. And I mean, I'm in the deep South, and I do not feel like there is any tension whatsoever in my daily life with anybody. I lived in New York, where it's the most diverse place on earth. Queens is like the most diverse place on the planet, and it wasn't a big deal, right? And there are going to be people out there who make a very big deal out of this, and there are going to be people who in the middle who kind of think that this it's not as bad as people make it out to be, right? So I want to say the majority of people think that, right? It's not as bad as people make it out to be. And for the most part, people get along very, very well. So that's why I don't think this movie makes as big of an impact as the What Is a Woman movie. Basically, what he does here is he disguises himself. And I have another picture I want to share with you guys because I have some of the people in the movie. Okay. So he disguises himself for part of the movie. For the other part of the movie, he doesn't. And he goes around to different DEI workshops, and he interviews anti-racist activists. And for the first third of the movie, he's Matt Walsh, and he goes into this redheaded lady's. He interviews that redheaded lady on the left next to him right here, and he basically learns. Well, she teaches him what anti-racism is, and he does some probing questions, and he's as sincere as he can be. And to be very honest, I kind of think he's not sarcastic in any of it, with her at least. There is a part where he is a little antagonistic, and I can see why people got mad at him. And I don't, if you say he didn't, then I think you're crazy. But he's pretty sincere in most of the scenes where he's asking about the movement. Now he's very smart. Matt Walsh is a brilliant guy. He might not. I don't know what college he went to. I don't know if he's like a crazy scholar like other columnists or commentators like that. But he's very very smart. So he knows all the answers they're going to give to him. Right? He can regurgitate all of the answers because to be honest with you, they all give the same answer. Um, which leads me to another point later on. But um, he starts off learning about what it is, and then he goes to the middle lady's. I don't know her name. I want to say her name. Her name is. I don't have her name. I want to say it's Sarah Tacola, but I could be wrong. I'm on IMDb with the cast, and it only gives the pictures of two individuals. So I want to say she is Sarah Tacola, but I could be wrong about that. The redhead might be Sarah Tacola. I'm not sure. But he goes to the girl in the middle. He goes to her workshop, and that's where he's at his in my opinion, I think he does his worst job in that setting. He's in a circle with other white people, and that lady in the middle is giving her talk on anti-racism and how dangerous it is to be a black person in the world today, and how she's talking about her experience, and he is constantly interrupting her. He is asking her questions that she obviously doesn't want to answer. She wants to just give her talk and get out of there. She's getting paid, right? All of these people are getting paid. And that was one of the questions I had was like, how did he convince these people to do these interviews? And how did he get himself into the workshops? Um, Basically, all of these people got a lot of money to be in this movie. It might have been under false pretenses. I'm not sure if that's allowed. I don't know how the legal part of this whole thing works, but they all got paid, right? And he shows you the amount that they got paid as he's doing the scenes. So I think this lady in the middle, she got like 30 grand according to the movie. Now, it's not according to me. According to the movie on the screen, it showed a $30,000 fee for her to come talk to maybe 20 people. I don't even think it was 20 people. Um, but let's just say it was 20 people in a circle, and Matt's one of them. And she literally, I think she doesn't want to answer questions. She doesn't want to be interrupted, and that's all he's doing. Right? All he does is raise his hand and interrupt and say things that kind of go against what she's saying. Because she says, like, one of the first things she says is that just being in this room could potentially be dangerous for her. Right, being in the room with these 20 white people in the circle could potentially be dangerous for her. And Matt Walsh raises his hand and was like, "What? Why do you feel that you're in danger?" And she's like, "Well, anytime I'm a black woman with 20 white people, and that's potentially dangerous." And he goes, "Well, I don't understand why do you feel like you're in danger?" And she obviously doesn't want to answer that question. She's saying that thing to create an environment where people, I guess, maybe feel a certain way towards her, right? Maybe they feel empathy towards her in some certain way. There's obviously no threat to her, right? There's 100% not a threat to her. All the people that are in this room are harmless, right? They're harmless people. Nothing's going to happen to this woman, but she doesn't want to be challenged on that, and he knows that, and he's asking the questions. He's challenging her on that kind of stuff, and everyone else is kind of just sitting there. So she immediately gets upset with him. And he's constantly doing it, right? So he's agitating her, and he's doing it on purpose. And this is really one of the only times that he purposefully agitates uh, an individual that he's speaking to in the movie. But in this portion, he's doing it on purpose. So eventually, he makes believe he's crying about something, and he leaves the room. And he gave a false name. He actually he gave a name that um, was an alias or whatever. So he comes back, and while he was gone, crying in the crying room, he all the people in the circle start googling him and finding out that it's Matt Walsh, and one of the ladies in there recognized him and whatever. So he comes back, and they're like, "Well, we would like you to leave." And he's like, "What did I do? Did I miss something?" And they end up kicking him out. They call the police on him and all this stuff. And that's when he gets the idea, maybe I need to disguise myself. and maybe I need to do a better job of not showing people who I am as Matt Walsh. Maybe I need to, put a disguise on." And that's when he puts on the hipster outfit that he calls it, right? He puts on the wig with the man bun in the back. He puts on a blue button down shirt with a tweed jacket over it. He's got a nice watch hanging out of the bottom of the sleeve. He puts his skinny jeans on that are go up above his ankle, and he has shoes with no socks on. He's really playing the part of the hipster. And then that's when the movie kind of starts. He goes around making believe. Actually, no. Actually, I'm lying. He doesn't make believe. Before he starts going around and interviewing people and going to these different other workshops, he decides that he is going to become a certified DEI specialist. So he goes on the internet and he finds a class for $30 that you sit through the class with a teacher, you answer some questions for a couple hours, and they give you a nice little card that says you are a DEI certified lecturer, trainer, whatever. So now he's going around to different things saying that he's a DEI expert and he would like to interview somebody, and he's acting as an expert. So he's playing the part as a DEI expert rather than Matt Walsh. I He gives the name Matt. He says, "Hi, my name is Matt." He doesn't say Walsh. He just says, "Hi, my name's Matt." And he speaks as if he is a DEI specialist because he knows the language and he knows how to act like one of those because he's heard them all. All of them say the same things. All of the DEI specialists, all of the activists, all of the people you hear talking about this topic all use the same language, all use the same vocabulary words. And to me, if you can only regurgitate what you heard your professor say, then do you really understand the material? Right? To me, that hurts your credibility, in my opinion. So, for instance, I had a minor in philosophy. I majored in biology in college. I got my master's in biology, but I minored in philosophy because I had this one professor who was really, really good. His name was Professor Gilson. Great guy. I wonder where he is now. Really cool dude. Took him for like 5 or 6 different classes. Got my minor in philosophy. If you ask me anything about philosophy, the only way I'll be able to explain it to you is with his words. I will not be able to tell you Aristotle's beliefs or Plato's beliefs or Kant's beliefs or Nietzsche's beliefs or Aquinas's beliefs without using my professor's words because I don't understand it good enough to use my own words to make it simple for somebody else, right? You see guitars and stuff behind me. I know the technical terminology for all the guitar stuff, but if someone asks me a question, I can put it into my own words and make that person understand it a little bit better. If you can't do that, if you can only regurgitate what your professor says, I don't consider myself a philosopher or a person that could teach philosophy because I'm not, the only way I can communicate it is with other people's words. So all of these activists all say the same thing. They all say the same terms. They all use the same examples. They all cite the same studies. And in my opinion, that hurts credibility because if you can't use your own words and use your own analogies and use your own research to convince somebody of something, and all you can do is say what you've learned in the classroom, to me, that either means the topic itself is weak or you're just not as um, educated on the idea that as you think you are. So he goes around to these different people, and he gets his DEI card and he goes around to these different people and he's trying to ask. He goes to activists and he asks them how he can be a better anti-racist. And he also goes to the other end of the spectrum. He'll go into the deep, deep South, into a biker bar with rebel flags all over it. And he'll ask them, how are you on your journey with your whiteness? How are you working on decentralizing your whiteness? And you have to hear the spectrum of answers between the two groups that he is speaking to are exactly what you think they are, right? The biker guy's like, what are you talking about? Like, what's wrong with me being white? And why do I have to decentralize it? And there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't see, if somebody wants to come in here and they're black and they want to have a drink, let's have a drink and let's go riding our motorcycles together. And who cares? We all bleed the same. And then he goes to a poor neighborhood and he talks to a black guy who's a mechanic. And the black guy was an immigrant from, oh, I wish I remembered the country. It was some Caribbean country, maybe like Haiti or something like that. And he was talking to this guy from Haiti, and he came here in 1971, and he loves being here and he loves the country, and he doesn't care about race. And Matt Walsh was like, well, if I gave you some books on anti-racism, would you read them? He goes, no, no, no. The only book I read is the Bible. And Matt Walsh tells him, he's like, well, I'm on my journey of getting rid of my whiteness. And he goes, why? Don't get rid of your whiteness. That's just the color of your skin. We all bleed the same and this and that. And then he talks to the activists, and it was actually surprising to hear the activists speak because, like I said, a right winger is going to know all the answers because Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson and Tucker Carlson and who else is there? Even Joe Rogan to an extent. I mean, he's not a right winger, but to an extent, Joe Rogan talks a lot about this stuff. And you've heard all of the rhetoric before, and you've heard of all the vocabulary before. So you know what they're going to say, and they say it all. They say all the stuff about systemic racism. It's part of the system, and it's in your bones, and you can't get rid of it because he's talking to them as if he's one of them, right? And he does a really good job. He does a really good job of making believe he's an activist for anti-racism and that he's trying to learn and that he's on this journey because that's how he presents himself to them. And at the end of every conversation with one of the left-wing anti-racist activists, he always ends the conversation with, so how do I stop being racist? Because he says, am I racist? And they say, well, you're inherently racist because you're born in a country that is systemically racist. Racism is built into the system. So you are inherently born into it. So there's nothing you can do about it. And that you're just born that way. And he says, well, what can I do to change? What can I do to stop it? Which I guess should be the answer at the end of every one of these workshops, right? You go to these workshops to get an answer on how to not be racist because people go to these workshops all the time. White people go to these workshops all the time about how to be anti-racist and how to, do that. And he says, well, he asked the question, how can I stop being a racist? And every single one of the people that he interviews, right? All of these people on the screen right here, and these are just some of them. There are other ones. They basically say to him, there's nothing you can do about it. And you just got to try your best. And you just got to work on helping other people not be racist. And that's always the answer. So the answer is that you can never fix it. It's always going to be there because that's what you were born into. And just try your best. And in my head, I'm like, isn't that what isn't that what most people are trying to do? Aren't most people just trying to do their best? And if I see or hear something that isn't right, I'm going to try to stop it, no matter if it's racism or sexism or anything else, right? If you're a good person, you're going to stop people from doing that kind of stuff. But it's taken to a next level. And I think what he tried to get across in this documentary was that it's a racket, right? I think he wants you to see that it's a racket in the sense that there's no answer to the problem. So therefore, these people will continuously have a money stream for people to pay them to come talk to them because the problem's never going to, their answer is the problem will never go away. And if the problem never goes away, then they can keep giving talks. And if they can keep giving talks, they can keep making money. And I think that's what his whole thing is that it's a racket and that there's no answer to it. And he kind of does it semi respectfully. And the person that got a lot of the heat, in my opinion, in the media is Robin DiAngelo. Let's see. So these are some of the people in the movie. Okay, now Robin DiAngelo, her picture is not there. But she was the one on the right-hand side of the other picture. So let me see if I can bring that back up. Okay. She's the one right here on the right-hand side with the gray hair and the black glasses, the white lady. And she has gotten the most heat out of anybody that I've heard in the paper or that I've heard in the news. And I got to be honest, I think she was the one who she came out looking the best in my opinion as far as like I don't want to say I'm just saying normal. She seemed the most normal out of all of them because he does something really drastic with her in her interview. And he's talking to her and again, they're all saying the same thing, so I'm not going to repeat that. But he says, "Can we do um a scenario?" He's like, "And I'm going to make believe I'm a black person and you're a person that I work with, you're a white person that I work with, and can you talk me through this scenario?" And he gives her the scenario of um he, he was what do you say? He was offended by something she did. Now he's making believe he's a black person, and he was offended by something she did, and she would then kind of tell him how she would handle the situation. Then after that, so they do that, and I think she did as good of a job as she could have. And to be honest, in the situation that he gave her, the answer she gave was probably the right answer for anybody, even if you're anti-racist or not anti-racist or into this or not into this. It would have been the right answer. Like, sorry, I offended you. I didn't mean it. I'll try not to do it again. That was basically her answer to him. Um, Mike Hurst says, "Damn it, man, I'm gonna have to watch this movie now. Wait. Well, I'm gonna spoil a pretty big part of it, so I hope you're okay with that." Um, so after that, he pulls in one of his producers, who's a black guy, and he has this black guy. I think his name is Ben, and Ben has been in the movie a couple times up to this point, which is pretty interesting. But he basically he pays reparations to Ben in front of Rob and DiAngelo. He takes out his wallet and gives Ben $26 and says, "I'm sorry for all the pain um, that my race has given to you over the years." What's the spoiler? He's racist? No. Well, I mean, they all tell him he's racist, right? He says he's racist in the movie, as the act, as the the anti-racist actor, the persona that he's putting on. Um, but he pays this dude reparations right in front of Robin DiAngelo, and then he somehow convinces her to do the same thing, right? So that's what you hear in the news, that Robin DiAngelo paid one of his workers reparations in front of him. And is that true? Yes. Is it misleading? Yes, because as he's paying the guy, she says to him, "This is really weird." And he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" She's like, "Well, this isn't exactly what we mean when we talk about reparations. You just don't offer people money. That's not how this works. This is really kind of strange. And like, you're lucky that he's okay with you doing this, because a lot of people wouldn't feel okay with you doing this." And the black guy just turns to her and goes, "I ain't going to turn down cash." And then Matt kind of says to her, "Well, do you want to give him any money?" And she's in a very awkward position at this point, right? And this was the only part of the movie where I was like, I thought this might have been a little too much, or maybe it was because of what I heard in the news about how crazy it was that she paid this guy reparations. Um, I didn't think it was that bad, right? I think she was in a weird spot. She was put in a weird position, and she kind of did what she thought she had to do to get out of the situation, right? And that was to get up, go in her purse, and give the guy $30. It was very funny though, because like her fee was like 5 grand to do the interview, and they show you that at the beginning of the interview. They put a little $5,000 ticker on the bottom of the screen, and then when she gives the guy money, it goes back up and it subtracts $30 from it, so it's like $4,970 because she gave him $30. That was really funny that they brought that up and showed her fee go down by $30 because that's what she gave him. That was hysterical. Um, but I did not think that was nearly as bad as people thought it was. And that's basically the whole movie in a nutshell. I mean, at the end, he kind of gives his thoughts on it. He tries to um do his own workshop, and that's a funny scene where he goes on Craigslist and he posts a Craigslist ad um, to give his own workshop because he is certified now. Don't forget, he paid the $30 to be certified, and he is. Um, so he's giving a workshop, and people are walking out like in the middle of his workshop because they think it's crazy. And then by the end, he basically he's trying to convince people. He wants to see if people will whip themselves with actual whips to beat the racism out of themselves. Now, I don't think he ever would have gone through with it because he doesn't go through with it. He gives the whips out to a couple of people to see their reactions, and people take the whips. People are like, oh, okay, I guess this is what we're doing, because the whole workshop is, trying to figure out how racist you are and this and that. And at the end, he's like, all right, well, now we have to beat the racism out of ourselves, and he hands people like, paddles and whips. And this one guy's like, I'm done with this. I can't, you're crazy. And he just gets up and walks away. And that's when he puts an end to the whole workshop. So I don't think he ever intended to fully go through with it. Um, but I think he wanted to see what the reactions of people would have been if he asked them to do it. And at least 5 people took the whips. Like, they were willing to do it. Who knows how far he could have let them go with it. But he, a whip. Fuck that, Mike Hurst says. I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. But that's really the whole movie. I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was groundbreaking. Not like What Is a Woman. If you haven't seen What Is a Woman and you're interested in that, I suggest you see it. I do suggest you, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, I think you should see that movie, or that documentary, because I don't think anything's going to get better unless you understand the side that you disagree with. And I'm not necessarily sure that documentary helps you to understand them better, but it does kind of give you an insight to the mindset of the most radical people of that group. Oh, one other thing that I forgot about. See these 2 people in the middle here on this uh, screen here, Regina Jackson and Saria Rao. These 2 individuals hold something called a race to the table. This is probably, if you've seen any commercials, you've seen this. It's basically where he's making believe he's a waiter and he's going around a table while these 2 people. So what these 2 people do is they invite only white women to a dinner, and then they basically tell the white women how racist they are and how to not be as racist, for a fee. Right? This is all for a fee. The woman on the right here, Saria Rao, she is an absolute lunatic. Okay. The person on the left, Regina Jackson, is your typical anti-racist activist. Saria Rao, insane. She, quote unquote, says that every Republican is a Nazi, that the system is, and the country is a piece of shit and it needs to burn down. Quote unquote, this, we need to burn the whole thing down, and how she hates this country. Now, I lived in New York for 38 years, and I finally got to the point where I didn't like where I lived anymore because I didn't fit in with the people that I was surrounded by. And, after Trump got elected, like, the divide between Democrats and Republicans got so bad that it was uncomfortable to be in that place, and I couldn't take it anymore. And instead of just talking about how much I hated it, I left and I went to some place that shares more of my beliefs and shares more of my values, I guess. And I'm happier for it. And there are plenty of Democrats in the South, and we all get along real nice. And every once in a while, you go to to the city, and you'll it'll be remind me a little bit of New York with certain people, but for the most part, everyone gets along down here. And I don't know why she doesn't just do the same thing. If you hate a place so much and you think that the place is so bad and so detrimental to your growth as a person, why do you stay in the place? If there's a place that's better and there's a place that you fit in more, why don't you go there? Why subject yourself to being in a place that you absolutely loathe and can't stand? I will never understand why people do that. That's the beauty of this country, is that you can find a place, you have 50 choices to find a place that suits you the best and to make your life as best or as, as great as you can make your life. You are not stuck in one place. You do not have to change your citizenship. The worst thing you have to do is change a driver's license and an address. That is the beauty of living in America. You are free to go to places that share your values and your beliefs, right? And the government should kind of stay out of it. But that's as political as I'm getting. I just want to go on this. I just want to talk about the movie. So that's really it. It was okay. It's your average movie. Average, it's I wouldn't call it it's a weird kind of documentary. I guess it would be considered a documentary, but there is comedy and built into it, and there's definitely a movie aspect to it. So, yeah. So if you want to see, not a lot of people I don't think are going to see this movie because it's not. I would assume a lot of theaters aren't going to play it because of whatever reason, political reasons. I would assume certain theaters aren't going to carry it. I assume there are going to be protests for it in certain theaters. I was a little that was in the back of my mind. Like, I do not live in a place that I think that would be an issue, and it wasn't at all. But I could definitely see that being an issue in other places, right? Because these people, when they go on talks to colleges and universities and things like that, they have to deal with the mobs, and they have to deal with people protesting them and people getting into the actual talk and then disrupting them while they're speaking. It happens all the time. You can look up a thousand videos on any conservative, speech giver being interrupted by these people. I'm sure it happens on the other side too. But that didn't happen to me. But I could see that happening at theaters. So if you want to see it, see it. I don't, like I said, it's not groundbreaking. It's not going to change too much, I don't think. But I think the people in the middle will get more out of this than people on either side, right? Because the people on one side already have their beliefs. People on the other side are going to have their beliefs and like it a lot. And people on the other side are going to hate it because they think they have their thoughts about Matt Walsh and the whole thing anyway. But I think the people in the middle are the people that are really going to benefit from seeing this. So thanks for hanging out with me, Mike Hers. I appreciate you. I appreciate the comments. Let's see what else he says. I want to say I missed some things here. Let's see, what's this one? I haven't seen the movie, but it sounds like it comes off really well edited. Telling a Southern white person I'm going to record you and ask them about racism can only lead to one type of answer, in my opinion. It's funny because he goes to the heart of Nashville. He goes to Broadway in Nashville, and I don't want to say he corners three guys, but it's a party town, and there are three dudes there that are obviously there to party. They're young kids, and he is playing the deadpan activist part. Like, he is not. I don't know if he told them afterwards who he was and what he believes, but during the interview of these three individuals on the street, he definitely did not let it be known that he was Matt Walsh and he was a conservative and he was right wing. And he's asking these kids, and they're just three normal 21, 23-year-old white kids about their whiteness and about racism and things like that. And this one kid was funny. He's like, "Dude, you're the most racist person I've ever spoken to." He's like, "No one here is." He's like, "I've never met anyone who talked more about race than you." And Matt Walsh didn't give into it. Matt Walsh kept going with it, and he's like, "Well, yeah, I am racist, and I have to work on that, just like you should be working on it." He kept going with it. The one strength that dude has, that Matt Walsh has, is how deadpan and straight faced he can be. I don't know how these people didn't. I don't know how his crew got through without laughing and without chuckling at some of the things that were happening, knowing that he's not an activist and knowing that he's not an anti-racist and things like that. Let's see. And it was extremely well edited. To answer that question, it was very, very well edited. It was very high quality production value. It goes back to him sitting in this diner. Like, it starts off with him sitting in this diner having this thought about the movie, and then it goes into him doing the movie. Then it ends with him sitting at that same diner because he's basically telling you the story of what happened as he sits in the diner. And it is very, very well edited. But yeah, the movie was well produced. But yeah. Let's see, what's he say here? I've always found it interesting how there's so many issues I look at as social that end up turned into political. Yeah, that's the world we live in now, though. Everything's everything's political. I mean, sports is political now, right? And it's a shame. Like movies, music. I mean, music was always there, right? Like I'm a very, very big Beatles fan. Love the Beatles. Growing up, I've always loved the Beatles, and I've always known that John Lennon was a big activist. It never bothered me, and he only came out with like one or two songs that were in your face political about it, right? Movies back in the day were not so in your face pushing a message. And nowadays, I think it's hurting the movie theaters that the messages are in there. Not necessarily that the messages are bad or wrong or whatever. It's just that people don't want to be preached to. And the movies that are doing really well are the movies that are lacking that push of the message. Top Gun Maverick didn't push a message. I spoke about this the other day on the Beetlejuice podcast that we did. Beetlejuice itself, Beetlejuice, the new one, didn't push a message. Twisters, I watched Twisters. That was a fun, stupid movie and had a good time with it and didn't push a message. Now you can't watch a football game without, something on the back of the helmet reminding you to, be an ally to a certain group or to stop hate and stop racism and all this stuff. And, um, it, I think it turns a lot of people off because, like I said at the beginning of this show, I want to say the majority of people in this country are good with everybody else in this country. And there's a small group of people, there's a very, very small group of people that want you to be angry at each other, in my opinion. There's a very, very small group of people, we like to call them politicians, that want people to be angry because that's how they can manipulate people better, right? If you have two sets of people angry at each other, it's easy to manipulate people on both sides, right? The right can manipulate their people, the left can manipulate their people, as long as the people are fighting. Then there's another group of the manipulated, right? There's the really far on each side who are the most manipulated, or even the manipulators. And you got people in the middle who are kind of, trying to take this all in, trying to make sense of the world and just trying to be good people overall. And I think that's the biggest tragedy in the whole thing, is that good people that are in the middle and just trying to get along and trying to be good people for the sake of being good people, they're the people that are getting more and more divided, right? We got to stop doing that. I love fun, stupid movies. The Rock has a ton of movies like that. He's always good for a nice, normal flick. That's true. He's got a new one coming out called Red One. I don't know if you've seen the trailers for that. He plays like Santa Claus's bodyguard or something like that. Looks pretty interesting. Red One is the code name for Santa Claus. And I want to say The Rock is kind of like his personal muscle, or his personal like Secret Service agent. And Santa Claus gets kidnapped, and the whole movie is about The Rock and Chris Evans having to go find Santa Claus. But who doesn't love a fun movie like that? That idea, that comment you wrote, I love fun, stupid movies. Everyone loves fun, stupid movies. Everybody does. And it's like, just give us that. Just give us fun, stupid movies. I definitely believe there's more normal middle thinkers than social media. Yeah, of course there is. Of course there is. And to be really honest, I want to say the majority of people in this country don't even watch the news, and don't even listen to a lot of this stuff. I think it's a special individual that is going to seek this stuff out. And the older you get, I think the more prone you are to doing that. San Andreas is a perfect, simple hero movie. I haven't seen that one. That's about the earthquake, and he's jumping off buildings, right? The Rock jumping off buildings. Can't go wrong. But thanks, Mike. Thanks to everybody who was in the chat, even if you were only here for a minute or two. I appreciate that. And that is going to be the end for me. And I'm going to put up the I got to figure out a way to kind of end the show a little bit better. But I appreciate everybody being here and listening and watching. And make sure you hit subscribe. This will be on Apple Podcast too if you want to listen to it instead. But thanks again, everybody. Have a good one. Talk to you later.